The evolutionary history, modern biology, and understanding of anatomy within humans is a complicated concept, a story riddled with rewrites and misconceptions to be corrected to an alternate understanding, only to be reconceptualized once again. So, with all these muddled responses, the archaeological and historical findings here are crucial to developing the modern understanding of our very own species. Sometimes glancing into the past gives us a window to the future, aiding an understanding of genes, ancestry, and evolution down to our very bones. These have practical applications to medicine and modern advancements. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at biological and archaeological advancements in our understandings of humans. Sir Victor Goddard and the Time Slip. The skies are a wondrous place, and ever since man evolved, we've dreamt of being able to fly. Of course, this is now possible, and thanks to the technological advancements in aircraft, being able to fly has meant that human eyes have seen things that we should not necessarily have seen. If you've ever been to Scotland, you'll know that its impressive landscapes and sprawling greenery can be extremely relaxing and very picturesque to fly over. But for one man in 1935, his routine flight over the Highlands became a little strange. Wing Commander Victor Goddard was conducting a routine aerial inspection of a disused World War I Air Force base at Drem near East Lothian. The base, which was dilapidated and had not been used for years, appeared to be being used as a farm. A day or two later, Goddard flew back towards his own base. It was a grey and rainy Monday, with low visibility and high winds, completely the wrong conditions for a pleasant flight, as you can imagine. He attempted to navigate towards Drem, but couldn't work out where to fly, given the conditions. Suddenly, Goddard lost complete control of his plane. It plummeted towards Earth through the thick grey cloud, which offered no brakes. As he reached 200 feet, he was certain it was over. But it wasn't. Goddard reported seeing swirling water and a stony beach and was flying near 150 miles an hour. Drem's hangars appeared as a silhouette in the bleakness of the afternoon, and as he approached the airfield, the skies brightened completely. As he flew nearer, he noticed a distinct difference in Drem's appearance. The airfield was freshly tarmacked, the hangars restored, and 4 bright yellow aircraft sat on the stand. One model of aircraft he didn't recognize, a monoplane of a new variation with RAF markings. Strangely, in 1935, the RAF had no monoplanes, not even for training purposes. There were men working on the ground, wearing light blue overalls, which was also strange as the mechanics that Goddard was used to seeing normally wore tan grey. Nobody seemed to notice Goddard's plane flying low over the airfield, and as he pulled his joystick backwards and powered back into the skies, the grey skies and ray returned. Soon he was near his intended destination and landed, dazed. Goddard tried to comprehend what he'd seen, but simply couldn't. His colleagues thought he was either drunk or mad, and he stopped telling his story. However, 4 years later, the airbase at Drem would be refurbished. The RAF uniforms would change to light blue, and a new training monoplane painted bright yellow arrived on the tarmac at Drem. As time went by, Victor Goddard came to the startling conclusion that he'd, in fact, travelled through time. Artificial intelligence could not crack the code. In 2018, artificial intelligence endeavoured to figure out the 600-year-old code, though even the AI could not reliably figure out what this code said. The Voynich manuscript appears to contain between 25 and 30 characters, as interpretations have been varied, and is written from left to right by a single hand. It is made up of 102 parchment folios, meaning it reaches approximately an astounding 234 pages in length. This objective information is minimal and does not necessarily aid in solving the mystery as to the original language the manuscript was written in. The manuscript is written in an unidentified language, using an alphabet that has not been seen elsewhere prior to the manuscript's discovery or after it was found. Many believe it has been written using a substitution cipher. This involves the letters of an existing language being exchanged for made-up letters to create a code. Typically, a substitution cipher is considered the simplest code. and is one of the oldest methods of encrypting a text. If it really is such a simple code, then why haven't scientists been able to translate the manuscript? Scientists have no idea what the original language is to begin figuring out where the substitutions have been made. Bradley Hauer and Gregor Kondrak aimed to use computational analysis in order to find a country the text may have originated from, or a language it was written in. Numerous algorithms were trained to pick up the statistical fingerprint of the text and compare it to existing, established languages to attempt to find a match. Factors such as the frequency of each letter and combinations of letters were used. Hauer and Kondrak began using this software on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They input 380 languages. This trial appeared to work and be successful, so they moved forward with their research. A computational linguist at Illinois Institute of Technology stated that the results were in debate, but not more so than many other results often published in the scientific literature. The next step in their artificial intelligence testing and research was for Kondrak and Hauer to apply these algorithms to the infamous Voynich manuscript. But this was where the pair began to encounter numerous issues. The initial obstacle is that the algorithm was trained to trace modern languages. The evolution of languages regarding vocabulary, grammar, syntax, and spelling is massive, and so languages we use today are incredibly different to the same languages in the late medieval or early modern societies, which is when the manuscript was traced back to in the 15th century. Another problematic element of the AI research is that while suggestions are made for the closest matches, the probability of this being a match is not considered. Kondrak and Hauer claimed to have discovered the source language, Hebrew, through their algorithm. However, this was the closest match of the 380 languages they inputted, but was not a certain match. Other matches that were considered close, for example Malay, are drastically different from Hebrew, and so the validity of this algorithm may be deemed very low. The lack of evaluation regarding how likely each language is means that Hebrew may have been the closest match available, but not necessarily similar enough to the source language for a substitution code. The final hurdle, and perhaps the factor that is a deal-breaker in the validity of their research, is that Kondrak and Hauer suggested the Voynich manuscript is written using not only a substitution cipher, but that it was also written in anagrams, having the letters within each word jumbled up too. Whilst this has been suggested before, it is certainly not a proven fact, just a theory. Kondrak and Hauer used Google Translate, which has a reputation for forcing nonsensical words and phrases into coherent, fluent sentences. Despite all the indicators that their work should be and would be disregarded, Kondrak and Hauer claimed the first sentence of the Voynich manuscript to be as follows: "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house, and me and people." The sensationalist media headlines stated that the Voynich manuscript had been deciphered and translated, and while we may have been drawn closer, the flawed methodology of Kondrak and Hauer's work means the translation holds little weight. Maybe future artificial intelligence can solve this mystery, but for now, we still don't know. The missing Prime Minister. On the 17th of December 1967, Prime Minister of Australia Harold Holt disappeared into the waters near Portsea, Victoria. Widely believed to be merely a swimming accident, various theories began to pile up. This is most likely because Holt's body was never recovered from the waters. Holt became Prime Minister in January 1966. Holt initially denied having security, deeming it unnecessary and making him seem impersonal to the public. This changed later, after a window of his office was sniped out and a later assassination attempt was made on the leader of the opposition. He finally agreed to one bodyguard but never took one on any vacations. Speaking of vacations, Holt was an avid outdoorsman. He had a fondness for spearfishing and would fish year-round. He also snorkeled, preferring the freedom versus the cumbersome weight of a tank. He is described as having incredible powers of endurance underwater. That being the case, however, Holt still had two near misses in the water, one which he blamed on a leaking snorkel, and one he blamed on chasing a fish while spearfishing. The morning of his disappearance began normally. Holt awoke early in his vacation house in Portsea, called his wife, and stopped at a general store. The items he purchased did not seem out of character: insect repellent, peanuts, and some newspapers. Holt spent the morning with friends, with a notable stop in Port Phillip Bay to catch a glimpse of a solo circumnavigator coming through. On the way home, in typical Holt fashion, he suggested they all stop for a swim at Cheviot Beach. His reasonings were the hot day and wanting to work up an appetite for the barbecue lunch they had planned to enjoy. Holt was familiar with the area, having spent lots of time swimming and fishing in the area. He had even once retrieved a porthole from a shipwreck in the area. Holt was the only one to venture deep into the water. Others deemed it unsafe due to a visible swell and undertow. Holt swam deeper out into the ocean, despite the calls from his friends, and without a wave or call for help, Holt simply slipped beneath the water. The search for Holt's body went on until January 5, 1968. A formal investigation deemed it an accidental drowning, stating Holt took a risk that day and paid the price for it. They found no evidence to prove otherwise. They went on further to explain that if sea creatures had gotten a hold of his body, he would have been reduced to bones within days. This would explain the lack of body being found. It all sounds so cut and dry, but soon enough, theories began to surface. Some theories claim he ended his life, fearing his political career was ending. The police report specifically ruled out this theory. However, as Holt carried on his ordinary routines, his wife went on to say that she believed him too selfish to commit suicide. Other more crazy ideas involve a Chinese submarine rescuing their lifelong spy and being killed by a Vietnamese nerve agent, all of which have been marked as nonsense from Holt's family. In Australia, Holt's death is often the subject of dark humour. It has impacted their slang. Instead of bolting, one would do a Harold Holt. His death has even inspired a storyline on an Australian soap opera. Whatever locals believe, it is obvious Holt's disappearance has impacted the lives of those he served. But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.